All right, we are now moving on to subtraction. This is Math Lab April 1st video. First off, before we move into subtraction, I want to go ahead and answer the questions that I had done earlier with addition and put the answers up there so that when I'm grading your guys' assignments when they're coming in, I'm just checking to make sure you took the picture of the notes and the work. But as far as being able to go through and grade them and give them back to you, I can't do that on an online format. So I'm going to go through at the beginning of the videos and put the answers. So make sure you're saving your assignments and your notes, and you can go back and check the answers and make sure you're doing correctly or which ones you made a mistake on that you can fix, and kind of going back through and looking at them that way. So I had you start with just addition. This was from the first assignment, so the March 30th. So 25 plus 17. Okay, so you add 12, carry the 1, 42. Okay, then you did 50 plus 70, so 120. 327 plus 99, so 16, carry the 1. 11 plus 1 is 12, carry the 1, and 4, so 426. 596 plus 758, okay, is 8 plus 6 is 14, 9, 10, 15, 12, 13, okay. And if it's going fast, if you're checking, you made a mistake and you want to correct, just pause it, and then you can go and watch the rest as you go on. 8,456 plus 797. Okay, is 13, 14, 15, 11, 12, 9. So 9,253. 827, you had to line this one up yourself, 35. So you get 12, 6, 8. And then 8,093 plus 702. So you get 5, 9, 7, 8. 8,795. So those are the addition ones from the March 30th video. I'm now going to do, so there's there, so you need to pause it and look through there and check your answers. I'm now going to do the March 31st video, the one yesterday of the decimals. And for my night class, you did both assignments for the first assignment because your night class is 2 classes in 1. So this is the second assignment for March 31st. This was adding in decimals. So you had to line your decimals up. 11, carry the decimal down. 10, 11, 41.1, 52.8 plus 3.68. So those line up like that. If you add a 0 there, you can do that. 8, 14, 6, 5. Okay. 17 plus 862. Remember, the decimal goes at the end of the whole number, so that's where they line up. You can put some zeros there if you want to see that. So 2, 6, 15, carry the 1, 25, 62. And then 507.8 plus 92.8 is 16. Decimal down, 9, 10, 10 again. So 600.6. 0.08 plus 19, I kind of did that here. These were the 19 lines up. Okay, so you get 19.08. That was easy, right? So it's like $19.08 should come out to 19.08. And 502 plus 0048. Make sure you line up the decimals. You can put some zeros there if you want it. 84205. So 5.0248. Okay, so that's the adding of the decimals. I want to put those on there, like I said, if you need to go back and check and see which ones you need to correct. Like I said, on the online format, unfortunately I can't return a copy to you. Some of the Google Docs you can do that, but math is almost impossible to create Google Docs because of the different problems, especially when you get in the higher math. So go through, check your answers. Now we're going to move on to the next topic, subtraction. And subtraction, a little more challenging, but it still comes down to the main principle of lining up your numbers. So that's one of the main principles still, is just lining up your numbers, just like addition. When you get into multiplication later, we won't have to worry about necessarily lining up. Sometimes you can do it just to help visually, but subtraction, you have to line them up just like you did addition. So let's go through just making sure we're still lining up. You know, if I've got 526 and I'm subtracting 37 or something, you're not just going to put that 37 right here. Okay, you're not going to do that. You're going to line up the ones and the tens in that case, and we're going to work from this stage, okay? We're still going to go vertically up, down here, but it's just about lining it up, okay? So at that case, then we get into the process of what you're actually doing, okay? And I didn't want to start with that one because that's, you know, a little bit further past the first ones that I want to do. But mental math still is going to be just like when we did addition, being able to add 8 plus 7. It's the same thing if you're subtracting, you know, 12 minus 2 or 12 minus 3 or something like that. I put this example up here, 12 minus 7, because this is a mental math problem. Now, there is a process that we're going to do when we have to borrow. But let's take, for instance, if we do this one in our head, 12 minus 7 is 5, okay? 12 minus 7 is 5. That's a mental math problem, knowing that you're taking 7 away from 12. Even if you do the borrowing process, and borrowing, you know, I'm sure you've seen before and you've done, but it's a little more challenging than carrying, because you could, you know, you have to borrow maybe more than once and different things like that. Especially when zeros get involved, students struggle a little bit. So I want to make sure that we're looking at not only the process of, but what you're doing when you are borrowing. It's not just some magic trick. A lot of students think that math a lot of times just uses magic trick. It is not a magic trick. It is just taking those things and borrowing it. So from this instance, 2 is smaller than 7. And all the problems that you're going to do in this class in Math Lab, is going to be, the smaller number is going to be taken away from the bigger number. Okay, meaning, you know, 7, the total value of 7 is going to be taken away from the total value of 12. We are not going to end up with negative answers in this class. You will in pre-algebra, but in this class, you're always going to have enough up here to subtract. You're not going to end up in negative territory. So when we look at this problem, this is bigger than this, but yet when we go to do 2 minus 7, 2 is smaller than 7. So technically we would need to borrow. And when you borrow, all you're doing is, forget about this and this. Take these apart. Let's say that's 10 and 2, and that gives you 12. We're taking 10 away here. Okay, we're taking that 1 away, and we're putting it here. Now, in your mind, you're still having to do the mental math of 12 minus 7. So a problem like this, you don't need to borrow and go through the borrowing process, because you're still going to have to do 12 minus 7 in your head and come up with 5. Okay, but that's what borrowing is taking the 10, putting it here. That comes in later when you may have one that's bigger than mental math. So maybe you have maybe 235 minus 48 or something like that. Okay, you're having to maybe not do the whole problem in your head. You're having to borrow. And another thing is, they're not always going to be ones right here. This could be a 3 or an 8 or 7. But you're still just taking 10 away from here. Or, in this case, just to do the process, you're taking 1 away and making it a 2, okay? And that 1 is going right here and making that 15. But just so you know, you're taking a true value of 10 and putting it here and making it 15. Okay, but for the process, just borrow 1, put it there. Now you can do 15 minus 8 is 7. Now when you come here, you're going to have to borrow again. 2 is smaller than 4. So you're going to take 1 away from here, make it 1. Okay, 2 minus 1 is 1. And you're going to put that 1 here. And so you have 12 minus 4, which is 8. And then 1 minus 0, which is 1. Now that may have been one you couldn't do in your head. You had to go through the process. But that's what you're doing when you're borrowing. Okay, so let's do some of those together. Okay. Okay, let's look at 56 minus 8. 74. I write them out kind of in best, because otherwise I'm trying to, I give a different array of problems so that you can kind of see every example. And so that way you can get a taste of every kind of problem that you see. Because math is a subject that it seems like schools and mathematicians and everything, once you got to, and it seems like once you have something down, then they change one little thing and you think, oh man. But English does it too, because I always remember the I before E except after C, but then there was like different examples where that didn't happen. But basically, here's some different subtraction problems where we're going to have to borrow. Okay, and I'm going to switch colors here so that you can see the work that I do. But in this case, 6 is smaller than 8, so we're going to have to borrow. We're going to take 1 away, put it there. Then our mental math is 16 minus 8, which is 8. Okay, and however way you need to do that, whether you count it out, write it down, however you need to do that, I'm looking for the right answers. So, you know, if you do it slightly different, that's fine. But you're going to want to do 16 minus 8, and then 4 minus 0. Okay, so 48 is our answer. We come to this one. Now, this was a 2-digit minus 1 digit. Now we have to borrow and put the 14, and 14 minus 9 is 5, but we still have subtraction left. It's not just 4 carried down. It's 6 minus 3, which is 3. What you don't want to do is borrow and forget to make that one less, okay? You don't want it because you got to make sure you borrow from here and put it there so that you can do the right subtraction here. Okay, here's one that's 3 digits long. We're going to have to borrow more than once, meaning we have to borrow right away. 6 is smaller than 7. So that's going to be 16 now. 16 minus 7 is 9. Then we go 3 minus 9. It's too small, so we're going to have to borrow again. Now that becomes 13. 13 minus 9 is 4. And then I can do 4 minus 3. Okay? So we borrowed once and had to subtract, and this time we had to borrow twice. Here's one where we have to borrow twice, and we're going to end up with nothing left over here. And let's see how that happens. So I'm going to borrow, make that a 13. That gives me 6. 6 minus 8, I'm going to have to borrow. That's 16 minus 8 now. And then 5 minus 5 is 0. So we end up not having anything. If you put a 0 there, that's fine, but you don't need it. It's 86. Okay? If you notice, this number is still more in value than this one. Even though we had to borrow a couple times, it's still a bigger number than that one. So we're going to end up in positive territory. This last one, okay, we will borrow. And it makes that a 12. But then we have enough to subtract the next one, 5 minus 5. That's big enough to subtract, so we just do 5 minus 5, and we didn't have to borrow here. So 7 minus 3 is 4. Okay? So this is different kinds of examples. Looks like a Christmas tree, green and red. But that's how you do those subtractions there with borrowing. The next thing, and like I said, if you need to run this back, look through those, go through a different speed, that's fine. I am going to move on to what happens when zeros get involved. Okay? What happens when zeros get involved? Now, if the zero's at the end or at the bottom number, it really doesn't matter. So if I've got 293 minus 105, okay, if the zero's down here, it doesn't really affect my problem. I'm still going to borrow here, 8. 13 minus 5 is 8. And then I just treat it like it's 8 minus a 0 and 2 minus 1. So if a 0 is down on the bottom number, it really doesn't affect the problem that much. What happens when zeros make it tougher is when the 0's up top, on the top number. So let's look at some of those. First one I want to start with is a 0 at the end, and it's only having to borrow once. Okay? So 80 is definitely bigger than 7, but 0 smaller than 7. So I have to borrow. So just remember, I'm taking 10 away from here, okay, or 1 for number-wise, but this is now becoming 10, okay, because I took a full 10, I took, 80 from 80 to become 70, I had to take a full 10 and put it here. So this is now a value of 10. 10 minus 7 is 3, and then the 7 minus nothing is 7. And so, and with subtraction, what you can always do, because some feel more comfortable with addition than they do subtraction, you can always check your answer by taking this number plus this number, and you should end back up where you started. So that's a good way. You don't want to do that with addition really, because you can do that with addition, but you got to do subtraction, and subtraction is harder than addition. But with addition or with subtraction, you may want to check your answer real quick. So just turn around and do 73 plus 7, and you should end back up to 80. Okay, so because you're adding back in what you took away, so you should end back up where you started. So that's one thing you can do also if you're checking your work. Okay. So, but in this case, I borrowed, put the 10 there, and then just subtract it. Okay, well, what happens then? Okay, let's do one if you've got more than one number. And the 0's still at the end, though. And so 0 is smaller than 5. I'm going to borrow, make that a 10. And I can do 10 minus 5. And now I have to borrow again. So that process stays the same. 12 minus 8 is 4. 1 minus 0 is 1. So that's what happens when it gets a little bit longer. It still becomes a 10 down here on the end, and you subtract. Okay, well, now this is the first. Oh, I want to put this one in here, though, because I want you to remember 0 minus 0 you can do. You don't have to borrow. So 0 minus 0 is 0. But then 0 minus 9, now it's not on the end anymore, but we're done with this part. We're done. So now it almost becomes like that is the end 0 now, because you've already done this. Now it's not that you do away with these numbers. You need that 0 there, but you've done that. Now you need to borrow, and this becomes 10. The full 10 goes to it. You didn't have to borrow from the 0 to get to this one. You had enough to subtract there. Now you do 10 minus 9, and then you do 4. Okay? Now the reason why I did that one, and then I want to lead into this, is what if that changes? I'm going to leave that one up there for a second to show the difference. Okay? Here's the difference right away from here to here. This one, I didn't have to borrow to subtract this. This one I do. Okay, so there's a major difference there. Okay, and I'm actually going to do this answer in red because I want you to see what I do here. So I subtracted here, didn't have to borrow, just went right to this. This one, I'm going to have to borrow right away. And so when this 0 goes to borrow from this 0, there's nothing there. And I make the joke when I teach this in class, I make the jokes like, you go to a friend, you go to borrow something, and I talk about when I was in college, everybody borrowed from people. And a lot of times you go down the hall and no one had anything. You'd be like, hey, you got any food? Got any food? You just work your way down to finally you found someone that had some food. But in this case, it's kind of like that. This 0 needs something to subtract here. It goes to this 0, but that 0 doesn't have anything. But just imagine now you've involved this person. I know it's silly, but it's a way that you can kind of remember for the rules for a little bit if you struggle with this. That, okay, you're needing something, you go here, there's nothing there, but now you've involved this person. So this person goes and asks this person, okay, and this person does have something. Okay, so it's going to borrow, okay, a 1, makes it 1, and it goes and it gives it to this person. Now, for a moment, this middle person had 10, okay, just like it had been on the end. It has 10, but it needs to loan that 10 to this person. Okay, this was the original person that needed it. So if I had borrowed here, and this is a 10 for just a moment, and let's pretend it's a 10, it is a 10, and it needs to give 1 away, then that makes 10 minus 1 a 9. Okay, this 0 becomes a 9 for just to pass on that total. So this became a 1. This one was 10 for a moment, but you took 1 away, and that full 10 goes to here. Now I want you to notice this 0 became a 9, but this one on the end became a 10. Okay? So I know it gets confusing, but yeah, if you look and think about it in terms of this needed a value, so it went to him or her. This one didn't have anything, so it went to this person. This one had 1, you took it away, you gave it to the middle person. they had it for a moment. They were 10, but they gave it away, so they became 9. Now this one becomes 10. It stays at 10 because there's nothing to pass on. It's got the full value. So you're going to do 10 minus 3, 9 minus 8, because 9 is bigger than 8, you can do that, and 1 minus 0, okay, because this is a 1 now. Okay, so it's 117. If you ever want to check, add 117 to 83, you end up at 200, okay? Let's do a couple more of those. Let's say you have more zeros, okay? So even more zeros, but it's the same process the whole way through. Let's do 5,000, okay, minus, let me actually put that a little bit lower so that when I borrow you can see it. 5,000 minus 4893, okay, and we're going to start our borrowing, okay. 0 smaller than 3, it goes to this 0. This one didn't have anything, goes to this 0, involves this person, they don't have anything. They go to here, okay, and they borrow 1. This was a 10, but it needs to give 1 away, so it became a 9. This is now a 10, but it needs to give the 1 away, so it becomes 9. And this gets the full 10 there on the end, okay? So it borrowed, and then it passed it on until it got to this end. Now you do 10 minus 3. 9 is big enough to subtract 9. 9 is big enough to subtract 8. And 4 minus 4 is 0, so you end up with 107, okay? All right, now I'm going to keep that one up there so you can compare here to this one. This is 5,090 now, so we've split up the zeros a little bit, and we're going to subtract 876. And so I think if you are learning this and you struggle with this, and you know, if you've got this and you have no problems, you know, you could do it however you feel comfortable with, just as long as you're coming out to the right answer. But for those that are learning this and going back and going, oh yeah, I remember that. Maybe this will be one way to kind of make it click. But basically, if you keep in mind what needs the borrowing, what doesn't, it will help you keep track which become 10s and which become 9s. In this case, 0 is smaller than 6, so you have to borrow. And there is, unlike these where you didn't have anything to borrow until you got down here at the end, this one does have something to borrow. It came to a good roommate. And so this became 8, so this got the full 10. Okay, so 10 minus 6 is 4. Then you've got 8 minus 7. It's big enough to do that. You didn't have to borrow. But now you have to borrow again. 0 smaller than 8, so you're going to borrow a full 10. Didn't have to pass it on, so it becomes a full 10. 10 minus 8 is 2, and 4. So both of these zeros became 10s because you didn't have to pass on that borrowing. Okay, so let's look at one that's also split apart. Okay, so let's look at 2030 minus 875. Okay, 2030 minus 875. So you have to borrow right away. And this person has it, so you're going to take 1 away and put it to full 10. Doesn't need to pass that on, so 10 minus 5 is 5. Now you have to borrow to make the 2 bigger than the 7. It goes to this person, they don't have anything. So now you got to go to here, make it a 1. This was at 10 for just a moment till it can pass it on to where you need to go. So it's going to become a 9, and that's going to become a 12. Okay? So 12 minus 7 is 5, 9 minus 8 is 1, and 1 minus 0 is 1. Okay? Lots of rules there. Hopefully that kind of helps you, that little trick. I'm going to put your assignment up. This is the one you need to take a photo of. And tomorrow's video should be really short, and your assignment should be a lot shorter than this one. This one gives you a lot of good practice with subtraction. Tomorrow's will add decimals, but really it's the same concept. It's just keeping it lined up with the decimals. So we'll go through that. Be a shorter video, a shorter assignment. But this one, I'm going to put some problems up. And there's about 12 or 13, I think. So let me put those up. And these will be the ones you take a photo of with your notes. and upload it for your assignment. I did upload a video to show how to upload a picture to your Google Classroom. I really need you to turn it in the Google Classroom under the classwork. So watch that video, because if you're sending me just an email, I have a lot of students this term. I've like 6 or 7 classes, and they're all pretty full. So I'm getting a lot of emails that if you send it just as an email, it doesn't always get directly to me. So if you put it in that Google Classroom, it lets me know which class you're in, what assignment is being turned in, and it really helps me be able to get it quickly back to you graded. So let me put that up. Make sure you watch that video so that you know you're uploading it to the right place. Here's 15 minus 8. Okay, 72 minus 9. 473 minus 85. 282 minus 135. 464 minus 395. Okay, then we put some zeros involved. 50 minus 9. 240 minus 75. 600 minus 80. 500 minus 87. 3,000 minus 827. 3,060 minus 234. And 7,020 minus 2,357. Okay? So it gives you a full practice there, borrowing, getting a little bit bigger, adding in zeros, and 12 problems there if you'll do those, and upload them to the Google Classroom assignment. Those that are night class, I'm going to post both videos so you'll get the next short one over the decimals on that, and I'll actually not answer these. I'll answer both together like I did the first 2 videos, okay? So here's these here, and then you'll get the next video. Thank you.